If you've fallen off the wagon, don't fret. This video is going to explain exactly what you should do. First, I'm going to share my story why I personally fell off the wagon. We'll talk about what causes people to fall off the wagon. And finally, we're going to talk about some steps to make sure that you don't do it again. Hey guys, Leon Sylvester here. And for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. Now, just before we get into the video, I've put together a totally free training showing you the 3 biggest secrets that make stopping drinking effortless and enjoyable. You can get instant access to it by clicking the link in the description. Before I successfully stopped drinking, I had tried what everybody else told me that I should do. I tried willpower, I tried AA, and I tried moderating, but nothing worked. I always ended up back at square one. Well, in the video below, you're going to learn about how willpower is not required to stop drinking. You'll learn about how stopping drinking is enjoyable and how there's nothing wrong with your personality. So again, guys, click the link in the description to get instant access to that video. Now, there was a time where I actually fell off the wagon completely. Now, this was before I discovered the Soberclear System, but my life was always up and down. Now, that being said, I didn't consider myself as an alcoholic. It wasn't like I needed to drink every single day. To be honest, most of my friends didn't even know that I had a drinking problem. However, my friends' perception of my drinking and the reality of my drinking, they were like 2 different worlds. Just because I managed to hide it well from others didn't mean that I didn't have a problem. Because my problems weren't extremely severe, most of my friends would consider my behavior as normal. It wasn't like I needed to go to a rehab or to do a detox. However, alcohol was causing massive problems in my life. I always describe the time where I personally drank alcohol as like being on a roller coaster. There would be good times, followed by bad times, followed by good times ad infinitum. My life was constantly up and down. During some of my attempts to stop drinking, I tried to moderate. For me, long-term moderation never worked. Every time I attempted to moderate or cut down on my drinking, I always ended up back in the same position. Sometimes my attempts to moderate would last a few days, a few weeks. However, no matter how hard I tried, I would always end up back at square one. The problem with all of this is that I still believed that alcohol was actually giving me something. I was convinced that my beliefs around alcohol were 100% true. I thought it made me more sociable, more interesting, more charismatic. I thought it helped me relieve stress. I thought I liked the taste, and I was certain that the positives outweighed the negatives. Luckily, I no longer hold those incorrect beliefs. But at the time, those beliefs were extremely deep-rooted in my mind. So, my first real attempt to stop drinking involved a rock bottom. A rock bottom is where all of the supposed benefits of alcohol disappear, and the negatives come into the spotlight. This exact scenario happened to me just a few years ago. I was working in a restaurant as a waiter and I was drinking regularly. 6 or 7 drinks 4 to 5 times per week. Now, there was one night that would bring a dramatic change to all of it. I have very little recollection of this night, but I went out alone into some bars and I drank a ton. I was on an empty stomach, I'd been working all day, and I had one of the most severe blackouts of my life. I remember waking up the following morning with like no recollection of what had just happened. It actually still freaks me out to this day. I remember looking over at my MacBook and there was this like brown substance all over it. I quickly Googled brown vomit and I figured out that this was blood. Yep, you heard that right, it was blood. It took me a few minutes to gather what memories that I had of the previous night. Honestly, I was sat there in utter disbelief. At this point in time, all of the positives of drinking disappeared. I was so upset with myself. The negatives of drinking were so apparent that I just stopped drinking. A few days later, I wrote down some of the reasons why I wanted to stop drinking. I wrote down that I wanted to start a business and I wanted to become a personal trainer. So, during this attempt, that was my goal. It was to become a personal trainer. I always say that when you stop drinking, you need to go towards a better life. And that approach is extremely effective. However, going towards a better life by itself is only part 1 of 2 in the stop drinking formula. The first part is understanding that alcohol gives you absolutely nothing. Sadly, I hadn't realized alcohol gives me nothing. So I got sober for between 7 and 8 months. I built my personal training business and I had a car, I had a girlfriend. Life was just going really, really well. However, during a New Year's Eve party, a small voice in my head got louder and louder. It was saying to just have one. At first, I resisted it, But because I stopped drinking using willpower, it eventually beat me. I genuinely thought that I could have one drink and just go back to normal life. Despite my absolute best intentions, just one drink turned out to a 9-month relapse. When it came to deciding to have just one, I still had the belief that alcohol was going to make the party more interesting and add value to my life. Because I hadn't studied alcohol properly and I didn't understand that alcohol is just a fancy marketed poison, I ended up drinking again. I fell off the wagon, so to speak. Now, obviously, today I have discovered the truth about alcohol after this relapse. And this led me onto the path that I'm on today, which is creating Soberclear, coaching people, and showing other people the truth about alcohol. Now, falling off the wagon always seems to follow a very similar process. Falling off the wagon happens usually a few months into a journey. It might be 3, 6, 12 months, longer or shorter. And here's the typical scenario. A problem drinker has successfully stopped drinking. However, alcohol is no longer causing this ex-drinker any pain. Now there has been a considerable amount of time since their last drink. They have forgotten most of the pain that alcohol was causing them. Now, because that they have forgotten the pain, they don't see the potential consequences of drinking alcohol again. And then, before you know it, the voice in the head of having just one drink begins. We know that alcohol is a highly addictive drug. If you drink one drink and you drink another one, this is not a freak accident. Now, I want to make this very clear. There is no such thing as just one drink. If you study alcohol and you do the work, this will be very apparent to you. That's why I always say that stopping drinking has to be about studying alcohol and going towards a better life. If you only do B, then you risk making the same mistake that I did. Sure, I had built a great life without alcohol, but I didn't address the root cause of my drinking, which was the belief that alcohol gave me something. Now, when you combine the study and going towards a better life, that's where the real change happens. When you uncover the truth about alcohol and you realize that there are zero benefits to consuming it, the desire to drink simply disappears. Starting drinking again and falling off the wagon simply becomes an illogical decision. Now, if you have fallen off the wagon, it can often be part of a larger process. Some people actually do the work. They understand alcohol, they do the introspection, and they do the first principles thinking. But they need hard evidence. They still think that alcohol gives them something. Then they fall off the wagon, so to speak, only to realize that what they learned was 100% true. Now they have evidence that alcohol gives them nothing. So these people can understand that falling off the wagon was actually part of a process. It's a learning process. Actually, I should call it an unlearning process, because we are unlearning the lies and the conditioning that we have been told around alcohol. And these lies have been being told to us for our entire adult lives. For some people, it takes longer for the truth to click. However, if they do continue studying and really looking at themselves and their thoughts, that click will one day happen. So what should you do if you've fallen off the wagon? Do not, I repeat, do not beat yourself up. The fact that you are watching this video means that you are willing to give it another shot. If you have come to the conclusion that there are no benefits to drinking and that drinking is causing you problems, this is a good position to be in. What I would say is that you should dust yourself off and get ready to start again. And if you're not 100% clear that there are no benefits to stopping drinking, then what I would say is start with the free video that I've put in the description. Another alternative is to hire a coach. Now, I do work with a select number of people one-to-one, and you can click the link in the description if you want to book a free consultation call. Either way, you want to spend time each day uncovering the reasons why you think alcohol gives you something. Once you've brought awareness to each of these reasons and you see them for what they are, you will be in a fantastic position to stop drinking. And then whilst you're doing that study, you can start focusing on going towards a better life for yourself. Stopping drinking was the best thing that I've ever done. I'm not just saying this, but I lived the life of my dreams, and none of this would have been possible if I had kept drinking. Guys, if you want to learn more about my story or the benefits of stopping drinking, then click the video on the screen now.